I get it. When you're setting up a live stream or a remote meeting room, the camera you pick can feel like a gamble. You've probably spent an evening scrolling through endless specs, wondering if the zoom will actually be smooth, if the focus will stay locked on a speaker who's moving around, and whether you'll end up with a grainy mess in low light when the lights get dimmed for that studio vibe. The last thing you need is a pricey piece of gear that ends up sitting in a corner because it just doesn't behave the way you need it to. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The AIDA PTZ4K NDI X12 is positioned as an honest-op solution for broadcasters, podcasters, and anyone who wants a professional-grade PTZ camera without the need for a full-time camera crew. It's a 4K NDI HX camera with 12 optical zoom, built into a sleek black box that can be mounted on a ceiling or a tripod. What makes it different from a regular webcam or a DSLR on a gimbal is the ability to control it remotely over the network, and to feed a clean 4K signal straight into OBS, Wirecast, or any NDI-compatible software. Who should actually consider this camera? If you run a small production studio, a church that streams services, a corporate communications team that does weekly town halls, or a freelance creator who wants to switch between multiple participants without constantly reframing the shot, the PTZ4K X12 hits a sweet spot. It gives you the flexibility to place the camera where the audience can't see it, then control pan, tilt, and zoom from a laptop or tablet. That means you can have a presenter walk across a stage, and the camera will follow them smoothly without a human operator. For a hobbyist who just wants to record a YouTube video at home, the price point and the network setup might feel excessive, especially when a simple mirrorless camera on a tripod would do the job. Let's talk about the real-world experience of using it. First off, the autofocus on this unit is surprisingly confident. In my tests, I set it up to follow a speaker who moved between the podium and a side table, and the camera kept the face in crisp focus, even as they gestured and turned their head. The 12 zoom is optical, not digital, so you still get the full 4K detail when you pull back. That matters if you're streaming a conference where the audience wants to see a speaker's slides clearly while also capturing their expressions. The zoom ring feels smooth, and the speed can be adjusted in the control software, which is a relief when you need a quick zoom for a dramatic entry versus a slower, more cinematic pull. Low light performance is where many PTZ cameras stumble, but the AIDA's sensor does a decent job for its class. In a dimly lit meeting room with just a few ceiling lights, the image stayed usable at 1080p, though the 4K stream added a little noise. If you're planning to shoot in near-dark conditions, you'll probably want to add some additional lighting rather than counting on the camera alone. The good news is that the NDI HX compression helps keep the bandwidth reasonable, so you can stream a clean 4K feed without choking your network, provided you have at least a 10 gigabits per second Ethernet backbone. Stabilization isn't a feature you'd expect on a PTZ unit because the whole camera is fixed to a mount. What matters is how jitter-free the pan and tilt movements are, and the AIDA delivers. The motors are quiet, which is essential when you're recording audio on the same floor. The last thing you want is a humming sound every time the camera sweeps. The built-in lens is a fixed 12 zoom, so there's no interchangeable lens ecosystem to worry about. If you need a wider field of view, you'll have to physically move the camera farther back or choose a different PTZ model with a different focal length. That's a limitation for anyone who wants to switch between close-ups and wide shots without remounting. Navigating the menu can feel a little dense if you're new to NDI cameras. The web interface shows a lot of options: exposure, white balance, focus mode, preset positions, but once you settle on a few key settings and save them as a preset, the day-to-day operation becomes a simple click. The learning curve is definitely there, but it's not a barrier for a tech-savvy team that already uses NDI workflows. The biggest friction point I found was the initial IP configuration. You need to assign a static address or make sure your router's DHCP table reserves one for the camera, otherwise you can lose connection after a reboot. Battery confidence is a non-issue because the PTZ4K X12 runs off an external power supply. That means you won't have to worry about the camera shutting down midstream, but you do need to plan for a reliable power source at the mounting location. For a permanent installation in a conference room, that's fine. If you're looking for a portable solution, you can move from room to room.